when I actually applied at Clemco, they talked about how culture was a serious thing and they hired based on, if you would fit in the culture or not. Because not only does Clemco want to have the people that are living our values, principles, and behaviors, but it's also fair to the candidate, right? If they're not going to be a cultural fit, then they're not going to be happy where they work. When I actually started at Clemco, I had low expectations. I had so many people that said, we have these values, principles, and behaviors, and we live them. And then you walk in and you learn the hard way that they're not doing what they say they'll do. Clemco is 100% different though. I walked in the door and I'm like, wow, they said that this is how they're going to act. And they are.
Welcome to Return on Empathy, a podcast brought to you by the Empathy Collective, a community where leaders come together to navigate change without losing their humanity. Whether you are a plant manager trying to humanize the factory floor, a small business owner wanting to build a strong culture that lasts, or a corporate executive striving to prevent burnout in your team, you belong in this community. Visit theempathycollective.com to join the waitlist for our community that will launch in July and use the discount code ROEPOD99 to get 10% off your membership. Continuous improvement is often associated with tools, timelines, and outcomes, but at its core, it is deeply human work. It asks people to change how they think, how they work, and sometimes how they see themselves. In today's episode, I'm joined by Alex Brown, Manager of Continuous Improvement and Culture Team Leader at Clemco Industries. Alex's leadership is shaped by lived experience. She's worked across roles on the shop floor and in operations, and today she brings people and processes together in ways that make improvement feel meaningful, not mechanical. Alex believes empathy creates the conditions for trust, ownership, and momentum, especially during times of change. In this conversation, we explore how listening can transform resistance into partnership, how transparency fuels resilience, and what it looks like to build a culture where continuous improvement and care for people grow together. This is Return on Empathy. Welcome to the show, Alex. It's so nice to have you here. I will admit I've been really looking forward to this ever since I met you at the Association for Manufacturing Excellence conference last year. You just have this contagious enthusiasm.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here because I know you're going to bring a certain level of energy to my listeners today. So you all are in for a real treat. And I love starting off every episode by just learning a little bit about my guests and their journey. And I know you've had a really interesting journey. You've held many roles at Clemco. So maybe you can talk a little bit about Clemco first. Like, what is Clemco? What do you guys do? And then what has your career path looked like since you started there?
Yeah, so absolutely. Clemco is a surface finishing media blasting company. So we do all kinds of stuff. I mean, all the way from the government to dental offices, all kinds of dedicated equipment. We have standard stuff. We blast bridges. It's really cool. So we build the equipment just to make our world safe. For me personally, my Clemco journey has been really, really fun and interesting. I obviously am now a continuous improvement manager, but my background by no means is anything traditional to a CI manager. So I actually started at Clemco 4 years ago and I started in crating. So I was hired on to build the skids to ship all of our equipment super safe. And then I was luckily promoted to a machine builder, which is like on our standard equipment that you could kind of buy out of a catalog. And then I was blessed enough, Clemco was allowing me to go back to school to get my engineering technology certificate to go to the project side, which is more of your dedicated hand cabinets, blast machines, big blast rooms. You work with PLCs and electrical. So I got to use and learn that skill as well. And then the CI specialist position was available, and a couple of people came up to me and kind of nudged me and was like, yeah, you'd be good at that role. You should apply. And I truly mean life is so much more fun when you just say yes. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. Let's see what continuous improvement's all about. Right. And so I learned quickly the two things that I love the most is in this role. Right. I have always been the kind of person that loves to help people when they come to me and they're like, I have this issue. And I'm like, let's work together to solve it. That's what CI is all about. Right. And then as of last September, so 2025, actually was promoted to continuous improvement manager for our site. And although I have so much to learn and I love learning and listening and growing, I am excited for the challenge. And I also, for the last 2 years, have been blessed enough to lead all four of our culture teams. So at Clemco, culture is a really big thing, right? We have our values, principles, and behaviors that we live by and we hire by, honestly. And we have teams that are putting our VPPs into action. And I get to lead that and help them with all the cool things that they get to do. So, truly blessed journey on my CI journey at Clemco.
That's so cool. I love how you came from that technical background into this more people culture role. I'd love to know on that journey and when people were saying, "Hey, Alex, this job came up and you really should apply for it." What why? What was it about your skill set that your colleagues were like, she's the one for this role? Was it your problem-solving mindset or your people skills? What was it
So,
about you?
yeah, honestly, I can't say for certain. I think it's because I have an open mind and I'm really, really willing to try just about anything, right? Even when I was on the project side assembling stuff and not even in a CI thing, CI would come to me and they'd be like, oh, we want to try this. And I'm like, let's try it. Like, no matter what, you'll learn something from it. If it didn't work, what we learned it didn't work. And that's okay. If it did work, let's improve it. There's these assessments that we do at Clemco, and one of my superpowers, they say, is galvanizing. And I love it. I love being with people and gathering people and bringing them. And I would even do that when I was in assembly or crating. I'd bring people in and be like, let's work together. I understand that I'm part of the process. You're part of the process. Let's all have a say in this and try to make it better. So those things probably did help along the way for my CI journey to pick up and take off. But I don't know. I think I have an open mind and people recognized that and was like, let's see if she can share that with others.
Yeah, oh, that's a great gift, the galvanizing piece, and with your responsibility in the culture realm, I can see where that would be a big win for that team. 'Cause I've talked to leaders in the past where they've said, we defined our values and then we kind of, put a stamp on it, get approval, and then they're just kind of this thing that's on our website or they're framed on the wall somewhere and people don't really feel it in the lifeblood of the company. And it sounds like Clemco takes this really seriously where you're taking the values and you're infusing it into the way you lead as an organization. So what does that look like? Like where is the intersection between the culture piece and continuous improvement?
It's funny that you made the comment actually about the culture, and sometimes people say they have this great culture and it is on their website. And when I actually applied at Clemco, they talked about how culture was a serious thing and they hired based on if you would fit in the culture or not. Because not only does Clemco want to have the people that are living our values, principles, and behaviors, but it's also fair to the candidate, right? If they're not going to be a cultural fit, then they're not going to be happy where they work. And so when I actually started at Clemco, I won't lie, I had low expectations. I had so many people that said, we have these values, principles, and behaviors, and we live them. And then you walk in and you learn the hard way that they don't, or they're not doing what they say they'll do. Clemco is 100% different though. I walked in the door and I'm like, oh, wow, like they said that this is how they're gonna act and they are. I have to be a part of this. And the continuous improvement and the culture aspect go hand in hand from bringing people along. We can't just say we want to make all these changes and we want to improve stuff and we want your life to be easier and then don't allow the people to do that. When we say we want to help you and make those improvements and live better and, do A3s and improve this process, and we don't give any of our people the time or techniques or tools to do so, that's not fair. So it's like, okay, if you have this problem that you're wanting to solve, and, you know, I'll give you the time and the tools to do so, and we'll relive that. That's just built into our culture. And it's bringing the people along and training them so that they understand the why. It's the with them effect. What's in it for me, right? If I'm saying that we have to improve this because we got to have more productivity, the people are like, cool. What does that mean for me? It's not really fair. Let's say this part of your process isn't fun and it's not a really cool thing to do. Let's fix it. Let's do it so that you come to work every single day and you enjoy what you do, right? So that's the culture at Clemco. We're telling the organization that that's what we're wanting to do and you have the power to do it.
I love that, and it reminds me a lot of a conversation that I had in the previous episode with another continuous improvement expert, and they were saying that there's often this hesitation with continuous improvement because people think, "Oh, this is being pushed on me, and is it really in my best interest? Is it going to truly help me, or is it just all about the company trying to create efficiencies?" And they did some empathy mapping work with the group, and we'll get to this towards the end of our conversation. But their point was, if you don't really address the what's in it for me, like you said, and it's not for selfish reasons, people just want to know that you're trying to help them solve their problems and their specific challenges. You're not just coming in with this initiative that's all encompassing and then everyone just has to, take it on and implement it and they don't really know how it's going to benefit their specific workspace. So I love that you mentioned that because it did remind me a lot of that conversation that I had.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing. You mentioned a specific example to me offline of a rapid improvement event that you conducted where a team was struggling with change. And instead of pushing forward, which is tempting to do because you're in a high pressure environment, there's a need for speed. Instead of really pushing, you paused and you listened. And I love this because this is a common theme that I'm seeing coming up in a lot of my conversations with leaders. In fact, one leader recently told me, I need to slow down in order to speed up. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. So what exactly shifted in that moment and how did being truly heard change the team's engagement in the improvement process?
One is such a fun one for me because of the end, which we'll get to. But honestly, what changed or, what shifted? It was me. I'm so serious. It was me. I was, we're trying to set up this cell and we were playing in their sandbox. These are the people that do the work every day. And I'm talking about this is what an ideal flow cell looks like. And this is how you set up for efficiency, and they're scratching their head and they're really trying and they're just like, we're stuck, kind of fighting me. And I took a step back and I stopped and I thought to myself, I think what they're thinking is that I'm telling them this because they're not doing their job good enough, or the way that they're doing their job is wrong. And that's not the point I'm trying to get across. And I'm like, what am I going to do about it?" And so I stopped and I said, okay, we're kind of frustrated. I can see that we're spinning our wheels a little bit, which is normal. It's okay. Sometimes we do rapid improvement events that are a week long. And day 3 and 4, that can be hard, and it's normal to feel like this. Let's take a step back and truly understand what we're doing, right? What are the frustrations of the team? What are the frustrations of your day-to-day job? And trying to just listen, be curious, not tell them that they're wrong in any way, not try to tell them that the way they're doing their job, or how they're performing their work isn't good enough. That's not it at all. And trying to understand their point of view on what they would like to improve. Because I promise, if we're listening to the people that are doing the work and those are the pains, those are the things that need to be fixed, because they should come in every day and enjoy their job. One of my things that I've been doing lately, and I'll tie it back to the event that I'm talking about, is I go out on the floor, right? We have these huge initiatives that we do every year, and those are a given. We set forth to grow in our company, but I want to do more. I want to help people in their day to day roles. So I go out and I pick 2 people at random and I walk up and I go, hey, when you walk into Clemco, what is the one thing about your job that's this is so frustrating. I don't want to have to do this anymore. What would that be? And they'll be like, oh, I have it. I know it. It's this one thing. I go, okay, awesome. You have the power to fix that, and I'm here to help you. And it's like, I do? Yeah. And so I go into with my events like that. I start each event with the same sentence. I go, this is your sandbox. And I am by no means going to tell you how to play in it, but I would love for you to have more fun. And if we can make it easier, by all means, let's do it. And that kind of shifts the way that people think and makes it a little bit more relaxing and like, okay, Alex is here to help me make my job better, not necessarily tell me what I have to do with all of these lean concepts and tools. My favorite, the example I was telling you about was there was a gentleman in this event and he was so anti continuous improvement. Like, this lean stuff doesn't work. Get me out of here. I don't want to do this. And that happens. It's normal because the word change can be a hard thing to try to think about. Change is hard for people. I kind of latched on to him and I'm like, I truly believe that life's not so serious. Like, we can improve this stuff and have fun. And I was trying to listen and have him tell me what his point of view was and stuff like that. And we started talking about his area and how we can improve it. And when we do rapid improvements at Clemco, every day we do some kind of report out to the stakeholders, right? The other people that are in those processes that aren't necessarily in the event, senior leadership team, executive team, whatever that looks like. And the reason we do that is to talk about the good work that we've done all day, right? We're working hard on this, trying to make it improved, but also to celebrate those wins that we're getting. And on that last Friday, we always do a final report out. So it's a rundown kind of quickly of all the way from current state to what solutions we're wanting to do and maybe rapid experiments. And this gentleman that was so anti CI actually said, hey, could I talk about the stuff that we've done in the report out? Because it's really cool and I really am excited to talk about it. My CI heart was so proud. And now I'm like, if I could leave every event gaining a torchbearer for CI, how powerful would that be? Like, that was so cool. So, yeah, I mean, I was able to help him. And now he goes out and it's funny because you'll hear him in the cells, right? He's like, oh, well, we didn't fix that. Here, we can fix that.
You turned one of your biggest resistors into one of your biggest advocates, which is amazing. And it's not the first time I've heard such a turnaround story from leaders who really take the opportunity to listen and to pause and to put themselves in the other person's shoes and understand their pain points. And just going back to your response to my question about what changed, and you said yourself. What part of you changed during that journey? If you could kind of rewind back to the original way that you had approached this before you went through all these learnings, what would you have done differently?
Gosh, such a good question. I'm still very new in continuous improvement and trying to get my bearings. And this was one of my very first events, right? So I'm learning the tools and techniques of lean manufacturing and continuous improvement. I thought it was like this was the process. And it was like, oh, we're not there. Like, what are we going to do about it? And so I was so focused on, like everybody else that tries continuous improvement, the result, right? We're like, oh, we got to get our percentage that we're trying to hit or whatever that looks like. And when I noticed that frustration, that was me thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. I need to take a step back, stop with the numbers. We'll get there. That will come, but you have to bring the people along. You have to ensure that they're being heard, that their voice matters and their concerns are honest concerns. And you need to stop and understand and be that servant leader. If you're so focused on a part of the process that doesn't even matter to them, you're not hearing the full picture. You need to stop and think, okay, this is their pain point. Let's help them solve that, right? And then that's going to trickle down to the rest of the process. You will get improvement, you will get your gains, but you have to bring the people along. And that was the piece that I was missing when I first started. I was so focused on getting that improvement that I wasn't necessarily stopping and listening. And once I started doing that and brought the people along, huge. I mean, amazing. Your team is the one doing the work. I'm just facilitating with the tools and techniques, right? So once they're heard and they're able to get their improvement and their point across, powerful. And they're empowered.
If you are loving this conversation with Alex Brown, this is exactly the type of stuff we will be diving into in our brand new online community, the Empathy Collective, in July when we launch. We are hosting a special launch event on July 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern, where you will meet some of the founding community members and hear a live panel discussion from four of our former podcast guests. Check out the show notes for a link where you can RSVP for this event or scan the QR code if you're watching this episode. We can't wait to see you there. Yeah, that's huge. And I think we all as business leaders tend to focus on the outcome because that's the way we're also compensated, rewarded. Our goals and objectives are set around those outcomes and the results. So it's very easy to just be so narrow focused on that. I'd love to know, when people are feeling tired, change fatigue is real right now across all industries, not just manufacturing, or they're just uncertain, or they're resisting, they're not sure. How do you help them stay hopeful and resilient while also still moving forward? Because I've worked with leaders in the past where their team has kind of come to a standstill because they're so tired that they just don't even know how to move forward. So that's really hard for a leader to just, say, okay, let's go. Let's rally the team. Let's galvanize, right? That's your strength, right? How do you galvanize those folks when they're already tired of changes and just like not one more initiative?
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, change is hard. And I think that's why I like the term modification. So if you're looking at somebody's process and you're saying, we need to change it, we need to make it better, that's a hard pill to swallow because you're going into their territory. And honestly, I like the modification because if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, maybe change isn't the right word. Maybe there's parts of the process, that this person that's been doing it for 20 years does really well. And maybe that's just not communicated. Maybe there's learnings there. I love to form a team of different folks. I love to have people that are super close to the process. They know it like the back of their hand. Somebody that's upstream or downstream that, helps with the process. They're the beginning of the process, and this person is the handoff to that process. And then I like to have somebody that has fresh eyes. So somebody that doesn't know the process at all. It's kind of funny because we'll be doing an event in Weld or something, and I'll ask somebody from finance to come out, and they'll go, I don't know anything about weld. And I'm like, good. You don't need to. Like, you get to ask the good questions. And sometimes you'll see that the team, you kind of got to watch the body language and how people feel, right? And sometimes when you lean on the people that don't know the process, that makes it easier. The people that get frustrated are the ones that know the process and don't know how to necessarily fix it. And to bring in those fresh eyes that get to ask questions like, why are you walking 100 feet to pick up a hammer? And they're like, I don't know. I've never thought of it like that. I just do it. This is my day to day. When the people that are in the process have a little bit of resistance, those people tend to shine. Plus, I don't think that life is so serious. I like to take a step back. Maybe we need to tell a joke. There's this thing that I do. I love celebrating people. And even if it's just a small win, I started this thing at Clemco where at the end of rapid improvement events or meetings, when we feel like we should be celebrating something, I go, and we clap. And it's hilarious because I'll walk by an office now, and now it's kind of a joke, but I love that people are picking up and doing it. I'll walk by somebody else's meeting and they'll go, well, in Alex fashion, and we clap. And so it's like, okay, sometimes we just need to, when we're getting upset or frustrated, it's okay. Just take a break, pick up where we left off, maybe bring some fresh eyes in to look at the process in a different way. And it just really helps the team bring them along.
I love that so much. I saw someone's LinkedIn profile recently. She was a human resources manager, and her tagline said, you can't spell humor without HR. And it literally made me laugh out loud because you bring up a great point. It's like we all get so serious in our work environment sometimes. And I could see where the HR function could be especially serious or even perceived as super serious, even though it's the human function, which is
Exactly.
ironic. And that's what your role is too. It's the intersection between culture and continuous improvement. And we're all just humans after all. We're not robots. We have senses of humor where it's okay to laugh at work. So I love that you're infusing that level of fun and the clapping into your day to day. So let's talk a little bit about culture because I think that's a really good segue with your approach to making minor modifications, really sitting and listening to people. All of this is infused into the culture, and you were talking about how important it is for Clemco to onboard and hire people who embody the values. So, what does this look like in the day to day in practice? So, how are we embedding those values into the culture, making it stick? What kind of everyday behaviors are you seeing in leaders who are obviously the role models for employees to show that everybody matters at Clemco? When you walked into Clemco for your interview and you felt the difference, because like you said, you had interviewed at other companies before and you were like, "Oh, your website said this, but I'm not really feeling that translate onto into the day-to-day work environment." What was that feeling you got, and why was it there? What was it about the culture that really made it permanent fixture in the leadership culture?
That's such a good question. When you walk in the door at Clemco, you instantly feel at home with family and that you're cared for. So trust is a really big thing for me. And trust isn't built on me looking at you and going, trust me. That does nothing for you. You're like, okay, I can try, but trust is built on those everyday small moments. So, for example, I walk by and I remembered that a welder's daughter's piano recital was last night, and I stop and I take the time to go, "Hey, how'd she do? You told me yesterday that, your daughter had a piano recital. How did it go?" Or you walk by and you're like, "Hey, you were telling me that your mom had the flu. Like, is she feeling better?" Those add up in such a big and powerful way, right? Like I mentioned, you can't just look at somebody and say, "Trust me," and they're going to do it. It's following those day-to-day steps, checking in with people, getting to know them inside and outside of work that make you know that that you have that trust and that you're forming that bond. And it makes it easier for people to come to you for things, especially improvement ideas. That's my job. When people come to me and they have a problem, if they don't trust that I'm going to help them, then we're not going to go anywhere, right? And it's all about the approach. So if somebody were to come up to me and say that they had this problem and they have an idea and I go, not gonna work. You think they're ever gonna come up to me and do that again? No, no way. You gotta listen and be understanding and help them and follow through. Like if I'm saying I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna help you. And you can trust me because I have built that over time, checking in with the people and ensuring that I know who they are, not just what they do at Clemco. And so that's truly Clemco. You can walk in the door and you know so and so's husband and so's wife, or you might even met their mom at some function that you were invited to. And we're just one huge big family. And it's cool because even when maybe we have a disagreement, it's okay. At the end of the day, we know we love each other and we're going to get through it. We actually had a couple of places that we were doing home to homes where we would go do a tour at their place and they would come to Clemco and do a tour. And we were kind of going over some presentations. And one of the gentlemen that works for a different company went, "Wow, you guys give feedback and receive feedback like I've never seen before." And it's because we trust each other. We know that whenever we're giving that feedback, it's not being mean. We're just trying to help and give you guidance and support and love you. We're not saying that you're doing it wrong, but maybe you could have a little bit of an improvement or something like that. So the way that we receive and give feedback is huge. I've never been in a company that can do that properly and we do it very well.
That's a big one, and I'm glad you brought that up because 10 or 15 episodes ago, I was talking to a doctor and he was saying how feedback culture in hospitals or in the setting of clinicians and physicians, it's not necessarily toxic, but it's just not good. And it's because physicians tend not to get this type of training. They're taught to aim for improved patient outcomes, right? So they go through medical school and they're given all the textbook knowledge they need to be a good doctor and to prescribe the right medications, but not at one point were they ever told, this is how you need to lead when you're a leader in a hospital, which is what many physicians end up doing. And I thought it was fascinating because you would just think that given their many years of schooling that feedback wouldn't be an issue, but it was one thing that he mentioned specifically was a challenge in the hospital environment is that two-way feedback culture, and that leaders are often afraid to give feedback because they're worried that the other person won't receive it well, or they'll think that they're being reprimanded. So how did you at Clemco infuse such a healthy feedback culture, even for new hires who come in and may have been used to the not so good feedback culture at their previous employer? Like, how do you onboard people into that environment and teach them how to do it?
Such a good question. I think, honestly, it's because we do what we say. You can go to some companies and they say that we eat, sleep, and breathe these values, principles, and behaviors, and then they don't put any action behind them. And Klimco is 100% action. We say we're going to be one Klimco, and then we represent it. We also give the feedback when we're not, and that's okay. That's an expectation, right? If you're always learning and improving, which is one of our VPBs, and somebody is, having kind of a closed mind and, they're not wanting to work with somebody, it's okay to give them the feedback. Hey, remember, our values, principles, behaviors is this, and you're not demonstrating it like how we would want to. And that's okay. Help them. Show them how you can do, a little bit better. We're saying one Klimco, we're all in this together. Your problem is my problem and my problem is your problem, and let's fix it, right? And I think when you walk in the doors at Clemco and you see people actually taking the action behind our values, principles, behaviors, that's what does it. Even new hires, it'll be funny. We'll have a new hire, and one of my favorite things is people. And so I'll go out and obviously introduce myself and try to get to know them. And so many of them are like, wow, this place is different. And I'm like, I said the same thing when I first started here. I know it is, isn't it? And it's just because we have that open door. You can come to anybody at any time, If I am a welder, you can go to the CEO and ask him a question, and that's okay. The chain of command, we're one big family at Clemco, and it's awesome that you can ask for help from anyone. And so I can't say exactly how we got there because it was definitely over time. It wasn't one day all of us woke up at Clemco and, we're one big happy family. But I do think a lot of it is that trust aspect where we are constantly talking and getting to know each other. I talked about my culture teams, and there's four of them. And one of them is our social committee. It's a party planning group where they plan all the parties for Clemco, and they're family functions. Sometimes they're at work where family members get to come in, or maybe they're off site and we get to have a little celebration. But you're getting to know people's family members and their kids. When you do that and you learn so much about somebody and you form that bond and that love, you're gonna work well together. I'm not saying that we don't sometimes we butt heads or anything, but it's more like a brotherly, sisterly thing where we talk about it and we move on. No hard feelings. It's okay. We know we love each other at the end of the day, and we're gonna make this better.
Yeah, I love that, and kudos to you and the team for making that happen across the entire organization because that's a big deal. And I love that you approach feedback from the collective point of view, that we're one Clemco. We're doing this for the collective good. We want to help you help all of us. So here's our feedback. So I love that you always lean back on the collective, on your values. So it doesn't sound like you as an individual are judging that person. Love to just be a fly on the wall and witness the feedback culture. So we're coming to the close of this really fun conversation, and we're at the fun part. where we're passing the empathy torch. For those of you who have not listened to the previous few episodes, this is something new we're doing this year where I'm trying to create more interconnectivity between guests. Because what I realized is I have the luxury and great pleasure of hosting all of you on this show. And I know where your areas of expertise lie. I know where you have wisdom and how you shine in this world. But all of you don't know each other that well. So I wanted to find a way to bring my guests together more and create some dialogue between the collective. That's why we're the Empathy Collective. The idea is that we each present either an empathy challenge or an open-ended question for the next guest. So the previous guest before you just happened to be very coincidentally a continuous improvement specialist. So the two of you have very similar backgrounds. And their challenge for you was around empathy mapping and how to apply empathy mapping to into the context of continuous improvement. So I look forward to seeing how you react to that challenge, and maybe you have some reactions now, but we'll definitely circle back on that. Once you've had time to implement it and experience it.
Value stream mapping, high level, is you're mapping out your process, understanding who your suppliers and customers are in like inputs and outputs of each one of the tasks within the process. And then you identify waste through that process. So any abnormal work, and then you use like a benefit and effort matrix to prioritize which tasks or actions we can pull from that to remove the waste from the process. And then you go forth actions, you remove the waste, move the process forward, you reprocess map it and understand what those success metrics are. Did we save time? Did we uh, touches, clicks? What type of waste did we actually get out of there? And then track it. So that's very much so heavy on the data side of things. The challenge with the empathy mapping is, well, we have all of these things and we know from a data standpoint we can fix them, or maybe we know of a different program we can use, just sharing that knowledge in a collaborative space. But the layer of empathy mapping brings in the task itself and then the person doing the task. So we could, for instance, say, well, we could implement this system, it would help with this, dot dot dot. um, what do you think? And then the person who's actually performing the process could be like, that's not even the part that I'm worried about. That's not the problem. That's not what's bothering me. Right. So we're focusing all this energy on the system implementation when it's as simple as that's not even what the coworker is asking us for. So that's where the empathy mapping comes in, is to help prioritize which tasks to go after first. Because when we have happy coworkers, everything gets better. Life is good. But we go down that wrong path and that coworker sees that, they don't feel seen or heard. They're probably going to reduce engagement. They don't feel empowered that way. They're like, well, somebody else made the decision for me. And this isn't even what I was asking for. So that's how those two actually marry together, is we do the process mapping and then right immediately after the empathy mapping, because that helps us set those opportunities and actions that we can go forward with and then prioritize it. So challenge you to take what you learned from the discussion about empathy mapping and how do you incorporate it in your day to day.
Absolutely. I am up for the challenge 100%.
Did you have some initial reactions to the challenge when you watched the short video clip from Kim?
Did. I mean, honestly, that is so Clemco. And I didn't even know that it was called empathy mapping, right? This is like such a cool thing that I can take back home with me. We try to listen and focus on what their concerns are. And I know that processes need to be improved for growth within our business, right? And so when she was talking about value mapping, and then doing the empathy mapping and how that goes hand in hand, absolutely. And I absolutely want to try to implement that into Clemco because that's kind of around the idea where I'm going out and trying to hear people's pain, right? But this is from like a value stream standpoint. And I think that's awesome. And I'm up for the challenge.
I'd love to hear what challenge or question you have for the next guest. And the next guest on the show is a school principal.
I'm curious to know what one behavior you had to unlearn in order to lead with more empathy and what changed once you did.
I'm curious to see what his reflections are as a leader of an elementary school because I think he will definitely have probably a few things to say here. I can say just my immediate reaction to this question is that conflict is okay. I was raised in a Midwestern household where conflict was mostly avoided. So as a family, we just kind of swept it under the rug. And you would think conflict and empathy don't go hand in hand, and they're almost clashing. But what I found is when you approach a conversation with radical candor, to use Kim Scott's methodology and her approach, and you're coming at it in a very open, authentic, and direct way that might cause some tension or friction or conflict in a way. It's better to do it that way than to push it under the carpet or kind of try to go sideways around the dialogue. Well, cool. This has been really really fun, Alex. It's been so nice to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your energy. I feel uplifted by this dialogue as I knew I would. If anyone wants to reach out to you or connect with you or learn more about Clemco, where should they go?
Absolutely. Please do. We would love to host a tour or even give you any tools or techniques that we use, right? We're all about learning and growing together. You can go to Klimco's website and let us know via that way, or you can even message me on LinkedIn. I would love to talk. I'm trying so hard to just keep learning and growing and learning everybody else's techniques and tools that they use. So please reach out. I would love to hear from people.
Well, thank you, Alex, and thank you for being with me today. It's been a real pleasure. I wish you a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you. You too, Rebecca. I appreciate you having me on the show.
If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you would like to join the Empathy Collective community, visit theempathycollective.com and use the discount code ROEPOD99 to get 10% off your membership. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.